Business process management is the overall way that we are organizations are trying to manage workflows and different business processes through documentation. So it includes things like the business process mapping or models that we saw earlier. But also we're looking at how we execute the workflow. We can monitor through a software-based system what's happening. So we can have a visual diagram of the workflow and tie it to our software. So those are some of the new things, and many of the ERP systems that we have available allow for this as well. So allow some flexibility where you can create or extend some of the functions of your business or organizational software through through software-based system where you can allow specialized reports or queries that you easily will create. So, for example, you may give someone, so you already have a system that has your um, the list of all the customers that you have. That's already in your business database. So you may want to generate a screen that allows your salespeople to actually do specific queries for your customers. So, for example, you may allow them to do different things. So it creates a web-based um, interface in their portal. So your web-based portal that the organization likely has. So you have an interface where you can filter out customers who haven't purchased any product in the past 12 months or the past 6 months. So you may want to give a call depending on what product or service you have if they had a pattern of purchasing over time. So business process management systems allow for creating those types of interfaces based on existing databases or ERP systems. So these features have been added to different software systems. You do have one example we have an IBM simulation that actually focuses on business process management. Some of the models are a little bit different than the business process notation that we looked at, but I encourage you to take a look at it. I think it will give you a good idea of some of the differences in trying to change, looking at incremental versus radical change in your business processes. So a sample business process management architecture, you see you've got a business process management platform, which is likely closely connected to your ERP system or other business software. You have a data center that's also there that crosses all of these. You have process data, you've got social IT that can help build on top of this. So you have activity monitoring, you have analytics tied to your data. The process part, you've got a process engine, business rules, events. So you can set up special alerts. You can set up rules regarding what is allowed through purchasing or not. So it's supposed to allow for more easy managing of automated processes across an organization, especially those that are cross-functional. These BPM systems are tied to enterprise applications like ERP and CRM or financial software. We're going to look at this is an example of one BPM software suite and some of the documentation, the monitoring that's allowed. And you can see I've mentioned a few of these like a portal. So most of these allow for a customized web interface. So so web portal is usually tied to a business process management system because you're allowing what type of work can be done within the web portal for specific users. So a salesperson, a a manager shouldn't have access to everything in our ERP system, but they should have access to specific screens and reports. And then the portal will allow you to customize that interface uh, and tie it to their account, their user account in the system. So, and that's actually part of this business process management. This is integrated with this concept of service-oriented architecture, where you allow business analysts in the organization, or if you maybe outside of the organization, that can help create these custom interfaces for you that are tied to your existing systems. I've talked a lot about ERP systems. So ERP is really the common lingo for enterprise systems. So these are ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning System. It's more than just enterprise resources, but it is and more than just planning. But it's an integration of systems across multiple business functions, including accounting, production, customer management, and supplier management. So it's can even extend to your supply chain, so outside of the organization. So this is where it starts getting fuzzy, because your ERP system, then we talk about supply chain management systems. They may or may not be part of the same. Many ERP systems extend to the supply chain, so you don't really have to have additional modules for an ERP system to extend to your supply chain, but some do. So enterprise systems is sort of the larger, more generic term that includes both supply chain management, ERP, customer relationship management or CRM systems, product lifecycle management systems as well, the PLM. So this is where a lot of those letters come into play. So these are all enterprise systems. So we're trying to enable information flows within and between processes in the organization. In the past, years ago, and in some companies and organizations today, each business area, each department has a separate system, and there may be a lot of redundancy in terms of data that's being stored and collected and requested from customers or even employees. We have some sample processes that might be involved in each of these systems. This is part of Figure 5.8 in your textbook, so I encourage you to take a closer look to that. But let's go ahead and look at some of these systems. These are important systems. We have enterprise resource planning systems. So two of the largest vendors for these that you may be familiar with are SAP and Oracle. So both of these companies, SAP is a German company. Oracle is based in California, sort of known for its started out as a database company, and it's acquired many other pieces of software, including PeopleSoft. SAP has done the same. SAP grew as an ERP system and mostly related to manufacturing. They have since bought a lot of additional software, including business analytics software, more into the database and data analysis side of things. So it's interesting to see these two competitors and how they're what they're doing. Microsoft also has a small business, a small to medium-sized business ERP system called Microsoft Dynamics, and there are several different modules, including Dynamics GP, which used to be Microsoft Great Plains. That's part of Microsoft Dynamics. So these are not the only ones, but these are companies that you should be aware of. These ERP systems, and whether you're in a business or government or nonprofit, you likely have business software that helps run the business. So it may be SAP or Oracle, it may be something very small. So these were designed to help large companies manage all this fragmented information. So lots of different departments, lots of different PCs, different desktop environments where data is stored, and a lot of redundancy in data across those computers and departments and business units and locations and facilities. So there were different versions of this. We had mainframe systems, and we had then client server environments. And I'm not sure about Oracle, but they probably have a cloud-based version too. But SAP now has a cloud-based version of their software called Business by Design, where they actually host the software. It's a web-based uh, ERP system, and there are others that are similar to that too. I wanted to note that Governor State University is a member of the SAP University Alliances program. So we do some things uh, with SAP. So if you're interested in SAP and learning more, please talk to me. I would be happy to tell you more. We do have a graduate course in ERP systems where we do configuration project for SAP. And we do some work with SAP NetWeaver product and that's SAP's service-oriented architecture and business process management product. So it's called NetWeaver. We do that project in our systems analysis design course. I would say usually. So we're trying to do more with this. So we have access to this very expensive business software and lots of capabilities. There are a few examples that we have some demos in this class, especially tied to analytics regarding business objects, SAP's product for business analytics. So another version of ERP, and I don't know in business how many people actually call it ERP2, but this was sort of the academic side. This is the extension of the ERP system uh, beyond the employees of the firm to our customers, our external stakeholders, including our partners and vendors. So ERP2 enables e-business, integrating business processes with your partners. In addition, there's a move to the cloud, and I mentioned SAP's Business by Design product, allowing greater visibility of information to your key stakeholders. Oracle's ERP solution they have something called Enterprise One. Some characteristic of enterprise systems are that they ideally will seamlessly integrate information flows through the company, through the organization, or through the whatever organization, government entity or not, uh, including manufacturing, accounting, human resources, and sales. These are big investments, and because they're such big decisions and require significant amount of work and time for change, these really are long-term commitments, or should be viewed as such, because it's difficult to move to a new ERP system every year. It's not going to go very well if you do that. Continuing to learn new software. So these are big projects, big implementation projects. So anytime there's an implementation of a new ERP system, this is significant change for the organization. So the ideal is to reflect the best practices of the industry so this is one of the problems that you'll have with ERP systems is you have to configure the system to fit your business processes, but it doesn't always allow that to happen. So the way that these software are designed, you may not be able to use the software in the exact way that you've conducted that workflow or business process in the past. So you have to align the two. So you have to either change your business process or workflow, or you try to configure the system. When that doesn't happen, if you can't configure the system to meet your workflow or business process, there's going to be a problem, and your ERP system is not going to be successful, at least for that process. So there is that's where change is involved. Sometimes it may involve incremental change. It may be a small practice, and it may be a big improvement. And other times it may be a major or a radical change. We also try to manage customer relationships through our CRM systems. Uh, and this is all the way from the marketing and trying to obtain and looking for prospects and engaging our prospects so that they will eventually become customers. But as well as looking at our existing customers, how can we better engage them so that that we can provide them with better support, that they will be more uh, loyal, more happy as customers, they'll be more willing to buy more product, or they'll be more willing to buy other products or services that we offer. Some of the ERP vendors also have CRM tied to them or additional modules, including the big Oracle and SAP vendors. Salesforce.com is another is another big one, and again, Microsoft Dynamics has them included. Um, these are these are really important to have and to make sure they are tied to your ERP system. I've seen firsthand examples where they're not integrated, so that your customers in your ERP system and your CRM systems don't talk to each other. So you have redundancy, and you can actually do the opposite of what is intended with the CRM system, which is improving your customer loyalty. You can actually end up contacting your customers too many times and actually drive them away. So the two should really be integrated or closely integrated or be part of the same system, which would be the ideal. Radical redesign is difficult, and we've discussed why it's difficult, because people are resistant to change. Managing supply chains. Supply chain management systems are systems that help us integrate our supply chain from our vendors to our customers. So this can be an extension of our ERP system, or even really part of the ERP system. So many ERP systems have, as part of them, have made supply chain a vital part of that's sales or value proposition for purchasing their software. So we're looking at linking cross companies, customers, suppliers, giving our suppliers information regarding manufacturing, regarding the orders, giving our customers information regarding orders, regarding sales. So if they're a distributor, they're a wholesale company, so giving them access to information. So visibility across the supply chain. Ideally, we'll be able to um, optimize the supply chain due to the increase of information, learning more about what's happening along that chain. Excuse me, in reducing increasing accuracy. We've also got to make sure, as part of our supply chains, an important and emerging area is security of information. So we do want to give information, but we also want to make sure that our vendors don't have access to everything. We don't want them to, because sometimes we have vendors, as we talked about in our strategy discussions, that are also competing with us on some products or in some areas. So we give them access, but we also want to make sure that our data is secure. We try to integrate our supply chains, but there is a lot of challenge, because it requires different degrees of coordination among your supply chain members. So it's often easier if your vendors, your suppliers, and your customers are using the same software that you are. So using the same system, maybe they're Oracle, maybe they're SAP, maybe they're Microsoft. Otherwise, it can be difficult, or there's special or more customized solutions that have to be made to allow for the sharing. So The partners must agree on the type of information to share, how that format or what the format will be for that information, what standards will be used. Like I said, if it's the same system, it's much easier to share the information. The data will be in the same format. Security that should be utilized, and uh, establishing trust. So establishing trust means that you can often build stronger relationships with your suppliers or your customers. When we're looking at, again, going back to workflow, so trying to coordinate our business processes between partners, especially if we're trying to do run just-in-time manufacturing um, or other types of production that require agility from our suppliers. So they've got to know what we need when we need it, so they can respond as soon as possible. Product lifecycle management are systems that um, help with product development. So if you think about developing a new product for the organization, how is that managed? So making sure that we include designing new products, or managing and documenting ideas for enhancements to existing products. So you can see some of the things that might be included in a PLM system. Allows for design, production, maintenance, customer feedback, vendors, marketing. So helping drive information. So using customer feedback, vendor feedback to help drive enhancements or changes to the product, or help design new products. So you said all of these enterprise systems, including ERP, CRM, supply chain management, SCM, PLM, these are the benefits are that they allow for easy communication, can provide efficiencies. They help centralize operations, help allow for reduce redundancies of data, and allows for a common repository of data from which you can ideally do some analysis that will help you make better decisions in the future. So ERP systems also help enforce standard procedures across different locations, different business units. So it's a way of enforcement. And even with ERP systems, employees may try to circumvent the process. But if it's enforced, if the systems are audited, if you're tracking the process and making sure that it can only be conducted via the system and the enterprise system, then it creates that common procedure. So we're reducing redundancies, we're creating standards for numbering, naming, and coding, which allows for comparisons across locations, across business units. So standardization definitely helps with decision making and reporting. Some of the disadvantages, though, they're an enormous amount of work. They're very expensive in terms not only of the license that you have to pay for software, but the amount of training, the time that has to be spent by existing employees to train, to learn the new systems while still doing the same work. So are you hiring new people to help with the changeover? So a lot of work, a lot of time, very expensive in hiring of consultants to help support that process. It does require, as I mentioned, the redesigning of business processes, because they have to be aligned. So the systems process and the organization's business process and workflow have to be the same. Otherwise, it makes the enterprise system useless or less useful, so you're not utilizing it to its full extent. Organizations are expected to conform to the approach in the enterprise system. So that's changing the way they do business, and which is not usually welcome. I mentioned the hefty price tag, and they're often sold as a suite rather than individual modules. So you often have to buy everything, even though you're not a manufacturer. You have to buy the ERP suite that includes manufacturing. And they are risky projects. So there's a high likelihood of failure or extending the implementation. And even once implemented, it's going to take, well, it's never really fully implemented because there'll continue to be enhancements or changes to the configuration that can help improve things. So don't see it as, by October 15th, we will be fully implemented. It's a major milestone, but there's still going to be lots of follow-up and lots of continued improvements over time. So think about allowing the system, implementing a new system as the way to drive a change. So sometimes it can be appropriate to let your enterprise system drive your business process redesign. So a lot of managers will use that as a way to introduce change. So maybe those existing processes aren't there yet, so you don't have that in place, and that can often be good. So you can actually adopt the best practices that are already tied to the ERP system. So think about, are your business processes what provide you with a competitive advantage? If not, then yeah, your system can drive the change. When current systems are in crisis and there's not enough time, or not enough time to fix them, the system will definitely drive the change. We think about the example of the Y2K process that drove changes. But it can be inappropriate at times to allow the system to drive change if your organizational processes are helping provide a strategic advantage. Then it should be the other way around. So think about how do you keep the advantage? Because your advantage may not remain if you implement a new system, because as we said, the process may have to change. Your organizational processes may have to change with the new system. Also beware of vendors, because they are, like many salespeople, are willing to oversell the product. Not saying that they're lying, but they often show the optimal use of the product with all the bells and whistles included, some of which may include purchasing additional features or different additional software. It's also inappropriate when there's lack of top management support. So as any project or any change in an organization, top management support has to be there. Otherwise, there is a significant chance the project may fail, the change may fail. And there's lots of case studies out there talking about ERP failures. I mean, we had a colleague of mine that wrote a case study on a university ERP system that a few months after the changeover, they went back to the old system. So that was a major failure. So they went back to the old system after spending several years through the process ramping up to the changeover. When looking at integrating between the companies, we already talked a little bit about this regarding supply chain management, but we have security and the decisions on how and what to share are some of the challenges. There are complexities regarding sharing information between different systems and the data and the format that or standards that they're in. They're often nowadays we're often using XML or other extensible market language data systems to share as a standard syntax. We're also using increased cloud-based systems, which can help make that integration easier because the software doesn't have to be installed in-house, so you may be able to create special vendor-based access for your systems. So we've been talking about business process as a way that we can help compete against other organizations, and how do we implement change. So I encourage you to post questions if you have any questions about the lectures or reading on this topic to the discussion board. There should be an area related to this module.